4th episode of the Ride Dirty podcast. JJ Squires.
All the bikes I owned were mountain bikes, and there were trails, kind of right outside my backyard that I could just go to the park and just do laps until I die.
Cool. So we'll go ahead and start it then. So this is the 4th episode of the Ride Dirty podcast. So the 4th one, and I'm with JJ. What's your last name?
Squires.
Yeah. And what does JJ stand for?
So my given name is Joshua. My middle name is James.
Got it.
So growing up, there was a kid pretty much exactly the same age, same height, same everything as me, and same name. And he refused to go by anything other than Joshua, so I became JJ, and it's kind of stuck from there. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Where'd you grow up?
So I was born and raised in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Okay.
In the mountains up there, 7,000 feet. It was a great place to be.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what's a little crazy about New Mexico is when most people think of New Mexico is just like desert, red sand, like just nothing around kind of thing. But I've seen some videos of some spots to ride out there, and it almost looks like Colorado, like white rock, like rocky areas and stuff like that, and it looks pretty amazing.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, the mountains that we have, just outside Santa Fe, we're the bottom of the Rocky Mountains. San Luis Cristobal Mountains.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
You don't really think of that.
No, you really don't.
When you think of New Mexico.
Yeah, obviously Colorado is a very gorgeous state, and it's definitely, well known for its massive mountains, and and we definitely are not quite as well known for it because we don't have quite the same scenery. It's a little bit more like wilderness, where it's just trees on trees on trees and trees and lower hills, not necessarily towering mountains. So, yeah,
that's cool. And then when you were growing up, did you start? Most people don't start mountain biking, from youth. How did you get into like bikes? Did you start BMXing? Did you just ride around the neighborhoods, or was it straight into mountain biking?
Yeah, so we actually have to start the story with my dad in the 80s.
Okay.
He started riding and racing, in the 80s and continued through the 90s. And then I was born in the mid-90s, 95. And he he was still riding at that point, but at some point he kind of took a break. But like throughout that, like I think I first got on 2 wheels, like took off the training wheels or whatever, when I think it was 4 years old.
Okay.
Or just almost 5. I don't even remember, but obviously I don't remember. But yeah, I got on 2 wheels pretty early, and from there, if we were riding, it was mostly as a family, so we didn't really like go straight into mountain biking. But him being a mountain biker, in the past, and like everything that he, all the bikes I owned were mountain bikes except for one. I did want a BMX bike, so I had a BMX bike too. But all the bikes I owned were mountain bikes, and there were trails, kind of right outside my backyard that I could just go back and forth. So yeah, I guess I started out like mountain biking.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's a little different than most people because mountain biking, like what we know, mountain biking started. What was it, like the 70s, like late 70s, early 80s?
Yeah, and my dad was kind of a part of that.
Yeah,
whole thing,
like the whole beginning of mountain biking.
He actually grew up in Orange County.
Oh, really?
So
okay,
he's a California kid. Yeah. Moved out to New Mexico to have a family, but
that's cool, man. I've seen some videos of the 80s mountain biking, and one back then in the 80s, it wasn't even like what we think of a mountain bike now. It was almost like it was a rigid bike, skinny tires, like, and people were just like sending it off of those things.
Yeah, I mean,
shitty brakes.
Right, exactly. And I'm not like super well versed on the full history, but working alongside John Carr, who is legendary bike photographer,
right?
He tells me all like everything that kind of happened over there. And one of the things is like the clunkers. They were
Yes,
they
the
were beach
clunkers.
cruisers with
Ah,
different handlebars and like just things to make them more off-road worthy. And so
right.
a lot of these guys started riding by just sending beach cruisers down with like nothing more than a pedal brake, just like sending it. And some of those pictures are absolutely rad.
Yeah.
They're so
There
cool.
was a video going around. I don't know if it was on Facebook
Mm.
or Instagram, but there was a video of like kind of like the history of it and some footage of what they used to consider like downhill racing. And these
Yeah.
these guys were no helmet,
Yeah.
no obviously no gear,
No.
and they were just like sliding out on turns, crashing, and
And they're not going slow.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, huge historical thing is that mammoth. You got the kamikaze, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's like that started back then. Like that's
yeah.
like people have been riding off that mountain, the top of that mountain on that. And I was there first time this summer, and I was like, this is it really this loose? Is it really this like how are these guys going so fast?
Yeah, it's wild.
And like
And
back in the day.
does your dad still ride?
Oh yeah,
He
yeah,
does.
yeah. He
What does
just
he think of like I mean, because starting that early on
hmm
in mountain biking, he pretty much witnessed like from a non-existing mountain bike to
Yep,
what we have now.
totally.
And what does he tell you about like how it's all progressed and
Yeah, well, I mean, he's fully embraced it. Let's just say that
yeah.
he has an e-bike, and I think he's getting my mom an e-bike,
Oh, nice.
possibly. When is this coming out?
Probably next week. Next
Okay,
week, yeah.
okay,
It'll
yeah. My
probably
mom,
be.
he's getting my mom an e-bike for for her birthday, which is Monday, which is
Oh,
why I
nice.
asked.
Yeah, it won't come. It
Yeah,
won't come out before Monday.
yeah,
So,
okay,
well, congratulations.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, he's definitely progressed along with the sport quite a bit. Like, he was mostly like cross country, did like long, and he still does like long rides, but
Right.
he's a little bit older now, and he's finding it a little bit harder to do those all day kind of things. And with the development of the e-bike, like he has a giant e-bike from like a couple years ago, and it's enabled him to do what he used to do, you know, a little bit more easily, a little bit
Right.
less stress on his body. So
Yeah, exactly. And that's every time I log on to Facebook, it just seems to be more on Facebook than anywhere else. But you log on to Facebook and just people just like they get so mad when
yeah,
e-bikes are riding and whatnot. But
yeah,
it's like who cares?
yeah,
Like the big thing is what you said. Like either professionals that have gotten injured
mm,
and can't really ride the way they used to, but an e-bike helps them get out there and ride,
mm-hmm,
or as you get older, when you get older, you're just not as able as you are when you're young, and that helps you a lot.
yeah,
So that's pretty cool that he's still getting out there and
oh yeah.
and riding and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, and he doesn't only have the e-bike either. So
Right.
he's got. I think he's got more bikes than me. I think.
Oh, really?
Which, saying something, but.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, so going from very young, you started writing.
Yeah.
When was it that you started, going into like more technical stuff, or was your
Yeah.
dad the one that was training you,
I mean,
and teaching you kind of the ropes, or were you just kind of learning as you go?
well, I mean, at first, like, from when I was 5 or whatever to when I was like 10 or so, it was mostly just an activity. It wasn't like
Right.
anything, like we weren't going to races, we weren't like looking into like anything. It was just like something for me to do, a kid who had a lot of energy to go to the park and just do laps until I die. Like that's, that was kind of more what it was. And there was no training. In fact, I would say, so my first sport passion was soccer, and then I got into
Ah,
disc golf, and I was junior state champion in disc golf for a couple of
no
years.
shit.
And my dad, disc golf is actually a huge part of my past, but my dad actually built a disc golf course in Santa Fe, like right next to our house. He had a pro license. He was throwing pro. Like he was doing pretty well in this a statewide scene, and we were like kind of known in New Mexico at the time for,
No
yeah,
shit.
we
Dude,
'cause we would travel.
I've
Yeah.
seen some videos of disc golf and
Yeah.
that shit is gnarly,
Dude,
bro.
it's
Like,
fun. It's fun. I swear I have a bum elbow because of it though.
oh, from all the
Yeah.
like all the
Yeah,
flicking.
cause like I would flick a disc. I'd go almost like 400 feet
Holy
on a
shit.
drive. So it's like, you're just putting it all into it. And I guess I don't know, cause every time I play now, it's like
It's
I
a
don't know
little
if it's called
stiff.
tennis elbow. I don't know what it's called, but yeah,
Ah.
it locks up and gets painful every time I extend it.
For those that don't know, disc golf is basically like golf,
Yeah,
but you're throwing a frisbee into what
a basket.
looks like a basket.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just chains, right?
Well, so yeah, I mean it's a metal basket, with a pole in the center, usually
Right.
about almost 6 feet tall.
Right.
And they have like, a dozen or so chains hanging down
To
in a
catch the
loop,
frisbee.
and then the disc goes inside, and hopefully the chains arrest the disc,
Yeah.
and then drop it into the basket.
Yeah, but
yeah.
but it's not as simple as it sounds.
No.
One, you're throwing it very far, but I've seen
Yeah.
videos of people like where they throw it and
Yeah.
the disc is maneuvering through
Yeah.
like
Yep.
through trees or like obstacles or whatever it is, and I've seen those things and I'm just like, holy
Yeah.
shit, dude!
No, and
like,
that was my life for like 3 or 4 years. Just that was all I did in my free time
fuck.
was disc golf, and yeah, it was the best. Honestly, I loved it.
yeah, I've always wanted to try it.
Yeah.
I don't know if do they have any out here?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm
for
sure they do,
Oh, yeah.
but
yeah. I mean, I can even show you an app right now where I could find the nearest like 15 disc golf courses, and I obviously I live in Santa Clarita, so up there there's for some reason up there there's nothing, but in the valley here and over blah, 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 past
like see me.
past Simi, like there's actually a couple around there, and then
Hmm.
there's a couple of places where they're just kind of chilling in various city parks or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. My favorite type of disc golf course, which they don't have as many around here, are mountain courses, where you're throwing across little valleys, and
No shit.
it's so fun. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I'd want to
Yeah.
try it. It seems like fun. Like gather some friends and like
Dude.
try it out once, just have some beers and have a good time. You
and
know,
that's
like
and that's kind of become the culture of it.
Yeah.
It's just I mean, there's a couple of dudes I know that play in play somewhere over there. Every Wednesday they'll just grab a pack of beers, grab their discs, and just rip it every Wednesday.
Ah.
And they've actually gotten really good doing
really
it. Yeah.
just by going out there and
Yeah,
doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've done it at the beach. I've just thrown frisbees at the beach.
Yeah.
And you learn to like how you angle your wrist and
Mhm.
how you flick it
Mhm.
on the distance you can go and you
Yep.
know like
Yeah, you can even like to get a certain behavior, you can actually, as you're throwing the disc, move your thumb across the top to do a couple of weird things.
oh no shit.
Yeah.
Man, that is wild.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
There's,
Yeah.
I spent a long time on disc golf and I got pretty good, but yeah, by the end I was so done with it.
And was that all through high school?
So
Or-
no, that was before high school.
Before high
yeah,
school.
all of this is before high school. I think so. How old was I? I was probably like 9 or 10, and mountain biking and disc golf overlapped a little bit. Like when I
Right.
would say I became like a serious mountain biker, it overlaps a little bit. But I would think I was 12 or 13 when I stopped playing disc golf and went basically solely to mountain biking.
Got it.
And that was in 8th grade when I started really racing mountain biking and like getting in shape and
And there's a
getting
big scene
serious.
out there in New Mexico, like racing scene. And
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's gotten bigger. It kind of fluctuates, but yeah, right now there's a pretty good scene, I guess. I haven't been there in a couple of years. So.
yeah, that's wild. And then, what compared to the trails that you've seen out here and
Yeah.
written, what's the terrain kind of look like from what you would ride during those years?
I mean, there's a lot.
And then also, sorry to cut you off, but also, depending on the region that you're in or the area that you're in, they also rate the trails differently.
Yeah.
So the black diamonds that you might see in one area are not the same kind of black diamonds as you would see in another area. So,
That's-
with the terrain, what like how would that compare? Just so like people in this area would know
Yeah.
like what kind of stuff you were riding at that age.
Yeah, that's the reason I always ride with a little bit of skepticism when I'm at a new place. I'm like, okay, this says it's a black trail, but it could be a freaking red
Yeah,
or some crazy. So you gotta have a little bit
yeah,
of self control. But yeah, so as far as comparability and like, I'd say I mean, California obviously has a massive variation in
it
like
does.
terrain and like it's incredible. So I would say most of the riding in California, like that kind of deserty, loose over hard,
Mm,
like sandy sometimes. I would say that's very similar to a lot of what's in New Mexico. And then of course you go up to Big Bear and you've got some similar dirt as well.
right,
A little bit more volcanic, but
right.
kind of on that similar plane. So most of the stuff out here I'm pretty comfortable. And then there's you go to another place in New Mexico, and I used to go to Arizona a lot. You get a lot of like rollers, like here in Simi at Rocky Peak. Like all of this is like pretty familiar terrain. It's a little bit more sandy, I think, or
Hmm.
I don't know. It washes away so
It
easily.
does.
It's
It does.
crazy. But yeah, I mean, getting used to that was not a problem. It was the rating that kind of I wasn't sure about. And so for the first couple weeks, first couple months, I guess, of me riding out here, I was like just tiptoeing through everything because I'm like, I don't know what's on the other side of this. I don't know because like out here in California, and it was funny. I was riding with somebody from Utah the other day, and he was saying the same thing. Is like where I'm from, the trails more or less flow really well. So if you have like a certain amount of speed, like I don't know, it's really hard to describe, but it's like you kind of know what's coming, like down the
Right.
trail, even if you haven't ridden it before. Like it's pretty easy to know what's coming.
Okay.
It flows with the hill really. I don't know. Here, I have almost been taken out a bunch of times because the trails don't flow as
Yeah.
well. Or suddenly there's like a rock section with like six square edges that you're like oh
Right. Right. Right.
so you gotta kind of ride on the edge of your seat a little
Yeah.
bit and I thought that was really funny. But yeah, as far as like I don't think the trail ratings too different
Okay.
comparatively. I think it's actually more section by section really. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think like the riding in New Mexico is just enough different, and we don't have like certain types of things that I would say it's pretty true to itself, especially
Right.
on like trail forks or whatever,
Got
which
it.
is mostly what I use.
Yeah.
I say,
So what I'm imagining over there, it's just, as soon as you start riding the trail, you
yeah.
can pretty much predict what kind of features, or at least be ready for the features that are coming up.
I mean, that's a like I don't know. Yeah, it's I don't know. I can't really describe. They just flow really smoothly
Yeah.
together, and there's not really any surprises.
Right.
But that also could be because I've ridden there all my life. But I would say the
Mm.
flow is a little bit different.
Right.
Like a blue trail is a blue trail, and it feels like a blue trail all the way down.
Yeah,
And
and I think here some of the trails, there's sections that can be blue and some
yeah,
sections that are just black or double black.
yeah. Well, and, I would say any double black trail, rated trail, only has a couple of double black sections.
Right.
Same with like
Right.
a black trail or whatever. And that's the right way for it to be for the most
Right.
part. Well, unless it's like a continuous rock garden, then you can call it whatever. But
Yeah.
I think yeah, I don't know. It's fun here. It's
Yeah.
fun. It's just different.
It is. It is. And then in New Mexico, when you were riding,
Hmm.
it's fun. The times that I've ridden with you,
Hmm.
it's fun watching you
Oh,
ride.
thanks.
It's really cool because it's not just your typical ride your bike down the rock garden kind of
Oh,
thing. Like you're very playful. You're poppy. You're jumping here and there, and it's fun to watch.
oh, thank
It's
you.
even it's cool. That's why I mean I like watching when you post those videos reviewing bikes or anything like that because you're just like and I'm always
Yeah.
commenting like dude like what the fuck.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
Did you always ride at least with the intentions of riding that way? Is that what you were inspired by? Did you have anyone that you were looking up to that you were like, damn, I want to ride like that guy? Because I have plenty of people that I
Yeah.
see and I'm like, dude, I want to ride like that.
Yeah. Uh, starting. So I'll say like I don't. When I started riding, I didn't really have plans. I didn't have. I was. I wasn't really allowed to watch YouTube at the time. Like there wasn't really like there were some movies out, but I didn't get those.
Right.
I was just riding because I was good at it and I was winning cross country races. That's how I started, was racing cross
Mm-hmm.
country. Like that's how I really got the passion for it. But the passion I had for it at the time, I liked the climbing part.
Really?
I was so scared of the descent. Always so scared of the descent. Like, there was a time where, I was just like facing this one thing in a race and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. I want to and then so like you had to go down this to get to the climb. And then the climb, I was like, oh, okay, we're better.
Yeah.
But it was like, I was such a wuss.
No
Kind
shit.
of when I was, this was, I guess I was 12. I want to say 12. 11 or 12 when I started, and up until I was 17, I hated the descents.
No shit.
I hated it. So at that point, I had gotten a BMX bike, and like started kind of messing around at the skate park that was down the street. And that was kind of cool, but I never really got the hang of it. I did my first jump when I was 5. There's a lot of things that go into why I was scared. Let me tell you that real quick. I nearly broke both arms and had to get stitches in my chin, which I still have the scar for.
I see it.
When I was seven.
Uh-huh.
And my dad was like, he's never gonna ride a bike again. But I did. I got back on the bike. And a couple of months, I think it was a couple months later, I was at we were at a one of my dad's friends was a motorcycle trials competition rider, and there's a Sipapu ski area in New Mexico hosts some of those events.
Okay.
And so I was there, and I was riding down a pretty steep fire road. I actually went back a couple years ago. I was like, oh, wow, it's a lot steeper than I thought it was. But it's a pretty steep fire road, and I just decided not to use the brakes for some reason. Again, like 7 or 8 years old. Just bombing down and, like, just balled it up. Just, oh, my God. I got flown down the hill. My ankle's all bloody. Thankfully, I didn't get hurt too bad that time, but yeah. So that's why I was scared of going downhill.
As a kid, I feel like a lot of people say like, "Oh, kids are fearless." So when you start riding so young, but I think it's not that they're fearless. I think that it's more of like naive. Like being naive.
Maybe.
Like you don't understand that you could fall that hard.
Yeah.
And you think your tires are just glued to the ground, so you just kind of let it go.
Yeah. I mean,
and some of them get lucky and just get past things, and that's how they just progress. But
yeah.
or you learn from your mistakes, one or the other. But
Yeah.
but that brought fear of like the downhill.
Oh yeah. Well, and I've always been the type of kid that kind of erred on the side of caution in a certain sense. I mean, I can remember times when I was a little kid on my scooter at the skate park, sending it as far as I could on my scooter before I knew what jumping was.
Right.
Like, I can remember doing that, but like, for the most part, I remember, I've been a little bit more cautious when like tossing myself off, because I think I've always kind of had an understanding of what could happen.
Right.
And, that's probably why I'm not like a professional racer today, is because I kind of have that voice in the back of my head like, nah, you shouldn't do that, and that can actually lock me up. But,
right.
Yeah, and that was like kind of the thing. Like, so I went from I don't remember, I was like 17 or 18. I got my first dirt jumper or something like that, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn how to jump. And then a pump track was made like pretty close to my house, and this is close for a cross-country racer's perspective, so it was like 4.5 miles away. Well, I guess that's not that far, but one thing to know about me, I was homeschooled since I was in second grade or first grade. So I never went to school. So my entire life was me waking up at 7 o'clock, or maybe a little later sometimes, and having all of my schoolwork done by 11 o'clock. And then I would do whatever I wanted afterwards. And
No
we had,
shit.
yeah, oh yeah, it was great.
That
And
sounds
that,
fun.
yeah, and that was all the way through high school. I did go to community college during high school, but like for the most part, like all the way through high school, I was homeschooled. And so that enabled me to basically be on the bike from whenever I stopped, um, schoolwork,
No
or whenever
shit.
my mom was like, okay, that's enough, to dinner time, essentially. Yeah,
Wow.
pretty much. I mean, I'm not going to say every day, but most days were spent like that when I was a kid. And that's all I wanted to do was ride my bike.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any friends that rode with me, really. Like, there were people that would come and go, but like I didn't really have like a solid crew around me. It was just me and my bike, and practicing wheelies, and hopping on, like, doing trial stuff.
Right.
I like, it was just me on my bike. And when it, cross country racing, I rode to the cross country trails, did like a 12 or 13 mile route, and then came back. But like at one point there was a pump track built, like I said, 4 miles away from me. And that was kind of the turning point of my mindset on downhill. Because at one point I was kind of tired of racing cross country bikes, because I didn't want to put in the training.
Right.
I just wanted to ride my bike. And I decided to not race anymore, and kind of took a couple of years off of like serious riding. And I was like, might as well just get better at my downhill. So
Right.
I went and rode that pump track like almost every day,
Right.
like on my way to the trails, or just every day I would just session that thing. And I mean, I would do way more than that too, but like that was like one of my main stops.
Pump tracks are tough.
Dude, yeah.
Every time I hit a pump track, I mean, obviously I'm using
Yeah.
my enduro bike.
Yeah.
When I do it, but even if I've taken a friend's dirt jumper,
Yeah.
and just all the motion of your arms and legs
Yeah.
pumping and going through and keeping that speed
Yep.
it's draining.
Well, I think that's how I'm going to try to rehab my shoulder a little bit, is just like do a bunch of pump track days.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And it's a good workout, but I
Yeah.
think it allows you to um I could be wrong, but whenever I get on the pump track, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, it allows you to understand control, and just the movement of the bike. When you're doing one of those berms on the pump track,
Oh,
or
yeah.
even pumping through it,
Yep.
it you can translate that to the trail.
Yeah. Oh,
Whenever you're you're going through a downhill, and you can just pump through those sections that you can't pedal for a pedal strike or
Right.
or whatnot. So
Yo, man. Yeah.
it's good training.
I mean, I've always said, and I used to coach a little bit, but I've always said that one of the most important thing you can do and learn on a bike is pumping, right?
Yeah.
Because it'll help you through everything, and like, but not only like, and that's not the only reason like pump tracks are good though. Like, learning how to pump is nice, but it also like puts you in a position where if you want to go fast, you have to pump. And if you want to pump really well, you have to have good technique. If you
Right.
want to carry your speed, if you want to do this, that, the other thing, if you want to jump, if you want to manual, like a pump track will teach you everything. And that's what it did for me.
Yeah.
It taught me everything.
Ah.
And like, I was going to the skate park a lot at this time too. I was starting to learn little tricks. Like I never really wanted to learn like the big tricks. All I ever wanted was like a toboggan, X up.
Right.
I could do 180s long before I could do 360s.
No shit.
And it's just like, I've always learned at like a fairly slow rate of speed. But those years of me just riding almost every single day around town, just, not a care in the world, just going out, really molded me into the rider I am today. And then, I didn't start like focusing more on gravity until I was 21. So this was 6 years ago.
Okay.
I met my then best friend Ulysses Yarbrough. Oh, and shout out to the guy who actually designed and built that pump track, Henry Landman. He's a huge part of the New Mexico scene, specifically the freeride scene.
Right.
and he's just a really cool dude. But yeah, shout out to him. But yeah, so Ulysses Yarbrough, he was my buddy. We actually met in film class at the college, Santa Fe Community College I was going to. And he was like, I mountain bike. Do you mountain bike? I was like, yeah, I mountain bike.
And right away,
this was like after the first project where we both did a project about mountain biking, I think.
Oh,
and
no shit.
Like, we were just like, you mountain bike?
Did we just become best friends?
Yeah, and it turned out he actually followed me on Instagram. I guess I think I followed him too. And we were like, oh, that's who you are.
Oh, no shit.
And we were like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go ride. And so I had a 2012. Well, this was like 2016 or 17. I had a 2012 Niner Jet 9
Okay.
cross country bike,
Yeah.
aluminum, and he had a Transition Patrol 2017. And so I was ramping behind him or trying to keep up with him on a big bike, and this is in Glorieta. There's a couple of ones I'm thinking about that were just like gnarly, that I was like, okay, I need to size up. I need to get like a bike that's good for more descending. And
Right.
so we were at Glorieta, and there's like this gnarly drop called the Plus Cheese drop. It's part of the BME almost every year, and it's like a huge heckle zone. And it's probably like a 4.5. It's probably bigger now actually, but it was like a 4.5 foot drop with a really, really awkward run up. It had 2 lines to get into it, but it was a really awkward run up. And guys on enduro bikes were like, "Nah, I don't want to do this." Like walking down the other side, and I was like, "I'll give it a try." On my little cross country bike, reach all the way out, like and I got into it. Dropped off, managed to avoid the rocks, and came out of it and was like, yeah. But that was the point where I was like, you know what? I think I'm done cross country racing. I don't need this bike anymore. I need something bigger.
Yeah.
And so I did one more race on it, one more cross country race on it. Won, and I was like, all right, that's a good way to retire it. And I sold it to a guy the next day, or maybe it was a couple days later. But
What
it was
year
like,
was that?
I think 2017 or 20. Let's see, how old was I? I think I was 21 when I got.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is it, 2020? Yeah, that was like 20. So 6 years ago. Yeah, 6 years ago.
Got it. And
horrible math.
it's hard to piece things together from the past. But when you sold that
Mm-hmm.
and you wanted a big bike,
Mm-hmm.
Did you know much about big bikes?
Yeah,
or were you just like, I just want bigger, I don't know what I want, and
Yeah.
I'm just
So I'd always, like, being that I had been a cross country kid in, primarily, didn't mean like I wasn't drooling over all of these,
got it.
like bigger bikes. And,
right.
I can't remember. Well, I guess it was the Giant Rain, like one of the more original Rains, just long travel. I was like, I want this bike. But I don't know why I didn't look into those. But one of the guys who owns, well, this kind of comes full circle actually. So Mike Chapman, who owns the Broken Spoke in Santa Fe, he had a 2019. Yeah. So wait, what? I don't remember. Anyways, it was some year. It must have been a 2017 Slayer or something like that. 2018 Slayer, Rocky Mountain Slayer, and like I knew I wanted a bike similar to what Ulysses had.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, a Slayer is like a little bit more aggressive, but kind of along the same lines.
Right,
and I was
right.
like, all right. And he gave me a really good deal on it. And so I started riding that Slayer, and that's when I started going to Angel Fire a lot. I started, just doing a whole bunch of more like enduro style stuff. And I raced in Arizona. I just did a whole bunch of stuff, and like felt pretty good, did pretty well. It was like, all of those skills that I'd been practicing, just because they were fun when I was, coming up through the cross country ranks, finally getting my mindset into that downhill and enduro stuff where I could actually send it and feel okay about it.
Right.
That bike kind of like brought it to a point where I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
And so that I would say that was my first modern bike, and that was my first bike where I really kind of began to blossom in my downhill and enduro speed.
So that fear that you used to have of the descent just kind of went away.
No. No. I was still scared. A lot of times I was still scared, but like it was the experience that kind of put me at ease when I was in a precarious situation.
Right.
I was still scared. I'll get to the top of a downhill today. I'm like, all right.
No shit.
If I know I'm gonna I have to be going a certain speed. So last time I did Suicide, that was kind of one of those for me. I was at the top. I'm like, all right, here we go. Took a deep breath and just sent it. And then my arms almost cramped up and I had to stop in the middle. But, it's like I still get scared on certain trails because the reality is this could happen. Like a crash could happen any day, anytime. It doesn't matter what speed I'm going. And I have to kind of.
Or what level of rider,
It doesn't. It's not picky.
It's not.
Who it takes out.
One little mistake.
Yeah.
And that trail, I mean.
And it doesn't even have to be your mistake.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
yeah, that trail. I mean, we're 4 for 4 in bringing up that trail on the podcast. On all 4 episodes, that trail has come up.
Yeah.
But what's fun about it is that a lot of trails you can go fast, but that one you can go really fast.
Exactly.
And it's chunky.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So you combine all of that, and at those speeds you can get hurt.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah. I mean that is the reality, but it took me kind of learning how to overcome my fear. And now there's a certain level of confidence where, yes, I'm not afraid of just going down the trail most of the time. Sometimes like I said, sometimes I still am. Like at the top of Grudge, there's always that little Twitter ooh, this could be the time,
Yeah.
But so I guess
But that kind of goes away once you start riding.
Oh sure, yeah. Once I get in a rhythm, I'm fine.
Exactly.
Fine,
yeah. That happens to me all the time too. I get to the top and I'm like, all right,
yeah. Now it's at the bottom that I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Take a deep breath.
All right, here we go.
That's funny, man. And so, all those years of riding, out there in New Mexico, what and how? But right now you work for Mountain Bike Action.
Mountain Bike Action magazine. Yep.
What do you do there?
I'm the assistant editor.
Okay.
So, I'm a journalist. So I write. I ask questions. I take pictures. I present on YouTube. I do just about everything. To an extent, and then there's the actual editor Ron, who kind of does everything else. He's my boss and the one I go to whenever But I've only been doing it for it's almost 9 months, I think. Yeah.
Wow. And you started that job out in New Mexico, or was that out here?
Mm-mm. Yeah. Crazy. It's kind of a weird story how I got this job.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna go into.
Yeah. So growing up, we would get Mountain Bike Action magazine.
Yeah.
And I was a huge fan. I would read every issue every month, over and over again. And so it was like my first ever introduction to mountain bike media in a sense, because I didn't watch anything. I didn't see any of the New World Disorders or anything when they came out until later, when YouTube kind of became more of a thing, or in my life anyway. But yeah, I mean, sorry, gotta think. What was it again?
How you got landed the job at
right.
Mountain Bike Action.
Right. If you can't tell, my short-term memory is very bad. Yeah. So I always loved the magazine. I don't think we'd gotten it for like a year or so. But I rode with a friend who, my friend Paul in Albuquerque, and he was like, John Carr, who is, the legendary photographer, Hall of Fame mountain bike guy. He's like, I talk to John Carr all the time. I'm like, oh, that's pretty sick. He's like, yeah, and they're looking to hire right now. I was like, oh, cool. Well, that'd be cool. Like, are you thinking about applying? He's like, no, but I think you should. I was like, I should? Why? Why do you think I should? He's like, I think you'd be so good at it. I was like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, sure, I guess. And this was just a ride, and we decided to take some pictures, and he took the pictures of me riding, and then, like, I thought he was gonna send me the email address to like contact them, but he did send it to me, but he contacted them himself as well, sent them a few pictures of mine and my Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff, and I got a call. Actually, did I get an email or a call? I think I got a call from John first, and I was like, oh, like this is actually a thing. This might go through. And he said he was gonna. No, I think he emailed me first. The calls were later. But anyway, he emailed me and he said he was gonna forward my information to Ron, the editor. I was like, oh, I haven't even said anything yet. Yeah. And then Ron gets it. He sets up an interview with me, and then John calls me, and like we start all this starts talking. And at this point, I'm working at a bike shop. I had just gotten a raise. I was doing well. I was really enjoying my job.
Right.
And if I ever get fired for any reason in this, like I would be happy to go back to my job over there. That was super fun. But this was at the same shop that I got that first full enduro mountain bike, Mike Chapman.
Yeah.
Broken Spoke.
The Broken Spoke. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I was in northern New Mexico. I was in Farmington, skiing with a friend, and I had my first interview in my friend's backyard, and we were talking about everything that what it would take, like what and I was like, all right, well, I can do this, that, or the other thing, and like I had to write them a sample. I had to, there's a few things I had to do, and it was like crazy. And then after that trip, my van broke down, and I guess most of you probably don't know me. I live in my van, and I had not this van broke down, but the previous van broke down,
Right.
And I was like living out at my parents' house again. I was like, sorry,
Yeah.
and then like the other interviews went through, and then I got the job, and then they were like, all right, when can you be out here? And I was like, okay, what can we push it back? I want to I don't want to leave my employer high and dry. He's like, all right, we need you now. And
Damn.
Unfortunately, I can't have you be in New Mexico to start it. You have to come to California. I was like, oh, all right, well, cool. Let's buy a new van and drive and move to California within a month.
Oh shit.
So that's what I did. From the first interview to stepping for the first time in California, I think was about 5 weeks.
Wow. And that's
all of it took me by surprise. Like, none of it was, I wasn't searching for a job.
Right.
I was like happy to apply, but it was like, there's no way I'm going to get this job.
Yeah,
like,
you just threw the application in there, like, just, fuck it, I'll do it,
Yeah. So
yeah, that's crazy though, because like you said, it's just, within 5 weeks, you went from, your life in New Mexico at the Broken Spoke to moving out, getting a new van, and coming to California.
Yeah, and I actually had to go to Denver, Colorado, to pick up the new van. So I had to do that as well.
Oh,
and then all of the, I had a storage unit, and I had to empty that out. I had so much to do, and so I was working. And yeah, I told my employer, I told Mike that I was like, hey, this opportunity came up, and he was like, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you. And I was like, oh, you took this a lot better than I was thinking you might. And I was like, all right, cool.
It's cool though, because at this job, it seems like you're putting all of your skills to work. You said you took film class.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you get to learn a little bit about photography,
Yeah.
your journalism, writing,
Yeah.
editing, like all that stuff. You're putting everything on to like
Yeah.
into the mix, and
Yeah.
plus your writing skills
What?
and your writing skills.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That helps too.
Yeah. So you ride mountain bikes. You know how to do that.
Yeah.
So all of that all put
Yeah.
together just makes
No.
you a perfect fit.
I mean, like, when I think about everything I've done in my life up to this point, it's basically led me to this job. I was an actor for 12 years. I did, plays, musicals, whatever, for 12 years. So I got that confidence and comfortability up on stage in front of people. I majored in photography and digital design and film in college. I didn't graduate, but that's another story.
I mean, you could still
Yeah,
learn from that
but like
regardless.
that's the thing is like I took photography for like 4 years in college and high school, and I'd been doing that for a long time. The only thing I wasn't like fully prepared for was the writing part of it, and because I never really, I've always been a decent writer. I'm not gonna say I'm like a bad writer or anything. But it wasn't something that I was ever like interested in doing for like a living.
Yeah.
So it was like that was the one thing that like kind of played in my mind like as a bit of doubt. Like, okay, I don't know, am I a good narrator? Can I like make a narrative in a certain sense? Can I write technically? Can I write, And I'll be honest, technology of today makes that question not a question.
Right.
Because like Grammarly is going to tell me when a sentence doesn't make any sense or is too long or is this, that, or the other thing. And it's like, I still need to know the rules of, everything. But like for the most part, like that was really a non-issue because I can get that narrative out and I can tell a story. It was just, I just needed to do it. So, and script writing, playwriting, like that didn't hurt, but it's just like never something that I wanted to explore.
Right.
I wanted to be a YouTuber, like, and I mean, it still would be fun.
You can still do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just need to get off my ass.
the fun thing about your job is that you get to, you get to test stuff too.
Ooh.
That's the fun part. You get different bikes, you get different parts, you get different, just a bunch of shit that they're like, here, play with this and let us know what you think, like.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about the perks of the job, man. I get to ride my bike for a living. I get to take photos for a living. I get to ride other people's bikes for a living. And I get to see places that I never would have before. And like, it's just getting started. Like I'm working on getting my passport right now, which is such a long process.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, got a couple of international trips possibly planned later this year.
Sick.
Like, just a bunch of stuff going on. It can be high stress in those situations because there is a lot expected of you in those situations and you got to get everything right, which I'm still kind of learning how to do all that. But, at the end of the day, it's like, this is my dream job.
Yeah.
This is incredible. And, I get to ride a different bike every month, which at first I thought was going to be really hard. Excuse me. Whew. But it turns out to be like once you understand your settings and where a bike is and what it's supposed to do, it's so much easier to set it up for yourself. So like with everything, practice makes perfect.
Right.
Setting up bikes, new bikes every month is
Enough
getting a lot
practice.
easier. Yeah. So I mean, I still like having my own bike. Primarily a dirt jumper that I can just throw around and feel fine. And like I think I'll always have my own dirt jumper, but it's coming to the point where I'm like, do I want to just sell my other bike and just ride whatever's here? Yeah. And if something pops out at me that I like really want to own, I'll just grab it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's a good plan. I mean, it's cool. Bikes, different bikes. I mean, to anybody who rides now, if you throw a different bike every month, they'll probably freak out. But like you said, you set up those settings. The
Yeah.
bike might feel and play like you can play with it differently, but it's still gonna perform.
Yeah.
That's what they're
Well,
meant for.
yeah, and I mean, at some point it becomes like, I'm a connoisseur. Like I can kind of tell the difference between each little tiny thing. You know, the more bikes I ride, the more I find that, and it's interesting because, like, every bike does ride just a little bit differently, but not everybody's perceptive enough to feel it. And
Right.
until recently, I would say I probably wasn't, but
And is that hard? Is that like I mean, it's one thing to just ride different bikes and be like, oh, this feels like cool, this feels good or whatever. But it's another thing for you to get a new bike and expect somebody to be like give you a real some real feedback, some real precise like details. Like some of the YouTubers that review bikes and they give you specific details on, how it climbs, how it jumps, how it's on descents and technical, rock gardens or whatever. Like we don't think about that stuff because we just go out there and ride.
Yeah.
But as a job, like, do you find that like maybe in the beginning difficult, or
Yeah.
was it pretty natural that you just like paid attention to those things? Because sometimes we just go
Yeah.
out there to have fun
Yeah.
and you forget about that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, at a certain point, like, you almost have to tune out that side of yourself and just like let yourself be comfortable before you can tell what's different about a bike. But like, I pretty much can tell you how a bike feels, like, and how it's going to feel if I set it up a certain way after the first ride.
Oh no shit.
Like, it was hard at first. And what's really hard is putting it into words. Like, actually putting
Yeah.
it into words is like, that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, okay, I know what I feel. I know how I perceive this bike.
Right.
But how do I like tell you how I perceive this
Right.
bike? Like, was it a super easy bike to pop off the ground? How do I put that into words? Like, that was hard for me at first. I was like, I don't know. I don't have the describing words to,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, it's gotten easier. And, I look back, I've only been doing this a few months, like I said, but I look back at a couple of my older, like my first bike review, and I read it and I'm like, I mean, I was okay then, but I've improved so much
Yeah,
already. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I need to like remind myself to look at that and like think that like that more, because I do get discouraged. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm just repeating the same thing. Like, this bike is sick, but like, I don't know. And then
Right.
like I like think back. I'm like, all right, I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And bikes nowadays, a lot of them are just so similar that they do ride very similarly to
Right,
each other.
right.
So it's like I do feel like I'm repeating myself. But again, this bike does that. It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's definitely not. I think the hardest thing I found that I have to do is I do a lot of like research on things that are not there, and it's kind of hard to talk to people sometimes, where it's like you want certain type of information and you try to get it, and the person's like not quite answering you the way you were thinking they were, and it's like, okay, how do I get better at like corresponding and like doing research and like reaching
Right.
out to people and like, whew. Yeah.
It's the stuff that people don't see,
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure everybody that sees your Instagram and knows about your job, they're like, this guy, he has the dream job, out
Yeah.
there riding all the time. But there's a lot that goes into it on the
Yeah.
back end that we don't see, and
Yeah.
that can make it a little stressful. Out of those 9 months you've been there,
Yeah.
so it's 9 bikes that you've
I've ridden more than that,
more.
but yeah.
Out of the ones that you've reviewed or gotten to test, which one's your favorite so far?
I guess I won't go by category.
Yeah, no category, just
Yeah.
all around.
It's between 2 bikes, to be fair, and a third one's being added to the list, but it's different. Man, there's 2 that like fully stick out at me like these are like 2 of the more recent ones that I've ridden. And and they're both like pretty small U.S. companies, both actually out of Colorado. So, and I like them for different reasons. But Revel, the Revel Rail. In fact, I think the only bike I've ridden in your presence is that bike.
Yeah, the red one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The Revel Rail 29. That thing is just butter. It's so much, but then you can just pop it like nothing, and it's so much fun. And then the Reeb SST, that thing got released in November, and we were fortunate enough to get one of their their media bikes, and oh my gosh, I've ridden that thing all over the place, including Sedona and New Mexico, and oh my gosh, that thing is amazing.
No shit.
It's like, yeah.
Is that the bike that you were riding when that I reposted today with the question? Because that was Sedona, wasn't it? Or
no. So I rode the Revel Rail, and so that was the rail.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the Reeb was it's actually a steel full suspension. It's only got 120 millimeters of rear travel, 140 front.
Oh shit!
So it's a trail bike, right? Yeah. It's not like a full sender, which, is almost more fun to me in some ways because like it helps certain trails be more exciting.
Right.
I took that thing down Suicide, and yeah, it was gnarly.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I don't know, like, but I still got my best time on Suicide on it.
Really?
I did. Yeah. It was funny.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
I don't know how true this is, but that guy, I heard, I think it was Liam from Worldwide Cyclery. I don't know how true it is. I don't know if it's changed. I can clarify this later. I'll look it up. But I heard that he had the KOM at Suicide on a 100 millimeter travel bike, just bombing down that trail. I don't know how true that is, and that sounds very intense on a 100 millimeter.
Yeah,
but
I think I rode with him. We were just in the same area.
Yeah.
It happened to be Suicide.
Yeah.
And he was riding one of the Crest lines.
Okay.
The new Crest line bikes. And yeah, I would not be surprised. He's a shredder. He is a shredder. Just by the glimpse that I saw him, he's a shredder. Yeah. I don't know. Dude, some of these people who ride bikes just don't give a care at all.
Right.
And just will send anything down anything. Like I said, I've always had a little bit more self-preservation, and so I don't
I relate to that a lot. I always tell people that I'm very cautious.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll see a feature and I'll be like, I can do it, but I'm like, I'll wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Before I actually send it.
No, especially when you're starting out, that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only been doing this for 2 years, going on 3 years this year, but it's still early on, and I want it to last. So
yeah,
I don't want to get really hurt.
You want to last. You want the whole thing to last. You don't want to get burned out, but you still want to send it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and with your you broke your collarbone.
Yeah.
You also injured something else, didn't you?
I broke my thumb. Which is
healed.
I mean, it hurts, but it's fine.
Okay.
I can move it. I can't put any pressure on it, but.
Right. When
I sprained my wrist as well.
When do you expect to be back on the bike?
So it's 3. Let's see, what time is it? It's basically been 3 weeks to the hour since I did it.
You're timing the hour, minutes, and everything,
not
right?
Not even kidding. I think the time of the break was 4:52 or something like that.
Yeah. So we're about 20 minutes, close to 20 minutes into your injury 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So he was saying, probably like, let's see, it's 3 weeks. He was saying like 5 or 6 weeks, and then 3 months to fully healed.
Got it.
I already can move pretty well. It twinges a bit sometimes, but
not enough to ride.
Weeks. Oh yeah. No. I mean, I went to the gym the other day just to like ride their stationary because I was starting to feel like, yeah, I needed to move.
Right.
So I went to the and I should have brought my sling inside, because
All the movement.
after 45 minutes, I couldn't, like, my arm was just on fire, and I was just like, oh, it's so horrible. But yeah, I can't put any pressure on it. It sucks.
Yeah. I'm sure you miss riding the bike, man. It's
Dude,
injuries suck.
that's the biggest thing is, like, I miss just the riding. I miss the people. I miss a lot of things, but I just miss riding, man. That's what I've been doing since I was 12 years old. Like, I don't know how to do anything else. And
Is this your biggest injury or?
yeah.
Yeah. Or at least that's taking you out the
Yeah.
longest?
No. My I had broke my patella, my left knee, in 20. Yeah, it was early 2020. It's actually the same week that COVID kind of kicked off. I was there like a week before COVID like fully hit.
Ooh.
And I broke my patella, which is my kneecap, and that took me out for like 13 or 14 weeks.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
a long time.
I was in a straight brace for
Wow.
8 weeks. I was in a straight brace for 8 weeks, and then it took me like 4 more weeks to like actually fully bend my knee back, and then another few weeks after that before I could like put any sort of like riding pressure on it, because it's just hurt, man.
Yeah.
And like I lost all my muscle at that point.
Were you wearing knee pads?
The one day I didn't, right? Yeah. No, I mean, usually I would. I was at the skate park, but I was only going to be there for like a few minutes.
Right.
Classic. And I was like, I had jeans on. I was like, I don't want to put my freaking knee pads on.
Yeah.
Like, it's so annoying. So I didn't. And then, yeah, I did something I've done like a million times. I hopped on a ledge into a manual, but it was like kind of a skinnier ledge. And I put my front wheel down and it went off the side. But that side was a bank. So it took my bike out from under me.
Oh, wow.
So it fully moved my wheel like to the side.
Straight into your knee.
Straight into my knee and chin.
Oof.
Yeah. Not a good time.
Yeah, that hurts just listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it was like one of those things that hurt a lot, but it didn't hurt as much as I expected. You know? It was just like there was like pressure, a lot of pressure with some pain.
Yeah.
I felt like a cantaloupe was in my knee.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I'm trying to keep them about an hour.
Yeah.
We're about an hour and 6 minutes in.
Okay.
Last thing. I know a lot of the guys that ride with us, a lot of the guys are really good at like, chunk and features and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not many are your style of like playfulness and poppy and tossing the bike around. And
Yeah.
I feel like that, comes with almost becoming second nature, or like the bike just kind of becoming one with you. It sounds weird, but like it's almost like an extra limb kind of thing, just from riding so much. But for those guys that do want to start getting a little more style, a little more steez into their riding, what would you say is like one? I know there could be many things, but one thing that a rider can do to start the process and getting that confidence of tossing the bike or turning the bars or getting poppy? Would it be making your settings stiffer? Would it be pump track? Would it be what do you think would help that one thing?
That one thing. And that's the thing, is like there's so many things
that
go into it. My style is, I would say I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, because I'm not really a specialist at anything.
Right.
But like as far as being more playful, my time at the skate park definitely helped. My time at the pump track definitely helped. So, at that point, it's kind of just repetitive, like
Just
do
getting
the
those
same
hours
thing
in.
over and over and over again. That's how I learned to manual. That's how I learned to 360. That's how, just trying over and over again. But like, yeah, so I guess persistence, but like to actually be comfortable, I don't think you can really learn, style. Like my style is something I've formed over like the 15 years I've been riding.
Mm-hmm.
But like being more comfortable tossing stuff, man, it's hard not to say just repetitive. But you really like learn how to pump. Okay, there you go. Learn
Pump
how to
track.
pump, because the reason I say that is because the more you learn how to pump, the more comfortable you will be with pushing into the ground and pulling up and pushing over and timing, right? So you're finding your timing and everything.
Yes.
And so, you can basically equate a pump bump, just a roller, to a jump. Just, take the middle out of the roller.
Or even a rock that you pop off of.
Yeah.
You know?
Just take the middle out of the roller. It's a jump. And just look at these jumps. These jumps are just massive rollers with the middles out of them. No big deal. You can kind of feel it, the plane going through as you're in the jump. And, if you push into it well enough, you can actually just kind of get that weightlessness. And then that's where you can really push the bike around you, right?
Right.
So, if you want to learn how to do style, learn how to pump, learn how to push your bike into things and kind of come up and just get that weightlessness.
Yeah.
And it can be as long or short as you need. That's how these guys are able to do these crazy tricks.
Yeah.
Like that's how I can do suicide no handers, tuck no handers.
Right.
Toboggans, like that kind of stuff is like you have to learn how to pump and push into the lip so you can have the awareness in the air and the comfortability in the air to do that. And none of that is muscling the bike around, right?
Right.
Don't muscle the bike around.
Right.
Don't force it, because that's how you're gonna
float.
That's how you're gonna end up with a broken collarbone or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's weird because the times that I've gone to the pump track on this bike, it like if you don't have that timing right, it just feels horrible.
Yeah.
It's so tiring and so bad.
Yeah.
But there's been that one or two times where I just time it perfectly, and it feels like you said, I just float, like I'm just whoop, and I'm like whoa, and then I'll keep going, and then it'll just kind of go off, and my timing goes bad again.
Yeah.
And you're just like, whoa, like that was cool, but if you continue doing that and you get that timing right continuously, I can see how you can become more playful with the bike.
I equate it very much to dancing. I love dancing. I've always, well, not always, I guess, but for as long as I can remember in my adult life, have been just loving to dance.
Right.
And so I like to try to dance, find the rhythm, find the beat of the trail and get it going,
that's good.
where you can actually kind of time your pops with a certain,
like a rhythm or something. Yeah.
It's so fun. And I mean, that's if you watch Supercross or something, go ride a pump track, try to double or manual apart, full speed, and then go watch Supercross where they're doing that on 250-pound dirt bikes for 20 minutes. Holy crap. And it's the same thing. It's those guys learned how to push into the ground and use that to their advantage. And that's really what I do. That's what makes me so bouncy on the trails, because I'm just constantly bouncing up and down. Right. So that's
dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. I'm gonna start. You know who's been going to the pump track a lot? Justin.
Justin's been going to the pump track a lot, dude.
Yeah. So I'm sure in no time we're gonna start seeing him popping off and being playful with his bike.
Totally. I think that is definitely in the future, as long as he doesn't wash his front end.
Exactly.
Dude,
that guy's wild.
Yeah, that crash of him at the pump track, I was like, whoa.
I thought the damage was gonna be worse than what it was,
thankfully.
but luckily it wasn't, and he's recovering from an injury too.
Is he?
His back.
Oh.
I could be wrong, but he had a disc that slipped, and then like a hairline fracture on another one.
From a bike crash or what?
From what he said, it's been just constant.
Oh.
Him riding and his crashes and just kind of not giving a fuck and just kind of going with it, and then it's just progressively got worse, and it's not allowing it to heal, which now he said he went to go get it checked out, and they pretty much cleared him. They said he's good to go, but they said take it easy. So that's why he's been hitting the pump track more.
That makes sense.
And not hitting Rocky Peak and Suicide and stuff like that. But
that makes sense. I mean, that's I'd say pump track is probably my favorite way to recover.
Yeah. I'm gonna start doing that. I need to get me a dirt jumper and then go do that, because this is too heavy and too big for that.
The Spire isn't exactly the the most pumpiest bike.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely a good bike though.
Well, JJ, I appreciate you coming out and
Thanks for
jumping
having
on the
me.
podcast. It's pretty cool. An hour and 15 minutes in, and we covered a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of your story, a lot of
Yeah.
your job,
Yeah.
a lot of good tips on getting playful and poppy on the trails with the bike. So
Yeah.
I'll start going out to the pump tracks and I'll get me a dirt jumper to go and do that with. So, again,
Start looking for those rollers in the trail too.
yeah, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to find those spots, and I want to get that style more integrated in my riding. So I'll practice that for sure. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah,
It
good
was fun.
stuff for sure. Till next time, bro.
Hell yeah.